Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and it looks like we have a rather interesting bit of news. Well, it's more of a statistic, but I want to talk about it because it's quite interesting and it could lead to some possible things in the future in the form of DLC. So, Creative Assembly decided to post on some social media platforms some statistics regarding Total War Warhammer 3 since Immortal Empires dropped. Before we actually jump into the statistics, there's a art error there. Number 4, the Shadow Legion. Yeah, that's not Daniel, that's Be'lakor. So, yeah. I guess they didn't have any proper artwork of Be'lakor on hand, so yeah, that's perfectly fine. Anyways, let's just jump right into the actual statistic, right? So, since Immortal Empires released, there have been over 12 million campaigns. And that's actually not that surprising, considering that at the very beginning, the average player count was around 112-ish thousand for a good amount of time. We actually stayed above 100k for a long time. It's just a shame that it's dying down a bit now, but then again, no DLC until Q2 can kind of do that. Now, the stuff that's the most interesting is the factions that are the most played. The first one being Reichland, the Empire, you know, Karl Franz and stuff, which is pretty interesting considering that the Empire is just not in a very good place right now, yet the last times that Creative Assembly have shared information like this, yeah, he's always been number one. It kind of makes sense because he's the go-to faction for every new player. Then, rather interestingly enough, we have the Northern Provinces in Grand Cathay, which is a fun faction to play. Actually, I really enjoy playing as Meow Meow. I do prefer Zhao Ming though, but Miao Yin is quite cool. But again, this is a faction that still kind of needs some help in the form of DLC just to kind of flesh out Grand Cathay a little bit more. Then we have Archaon, the Ever-Chosen with the War Host of the Apocalypse. This makes a lot of sense considering that the Warriors of Chaos rework was absolutely amazing. If you guys played Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2, which I'm imagining a lot of you have, you know that Archaon was always kind of memed to be like the joke. He was constantly known as Archaon the Never-Chosen rather than the Ever-Chosen, so it's really good to see him getting a lot of attention now. Be'lakor is next, and I understand why Be'lakor with the Shadow Legion was getting so much attention from the player base. It's a Warriors of Chaos faction, yes, but it's mixed up with some mechanics from the Demons of Chaos, and I think that that was a really healthy mix. It really made him quite enjoyable. Yes, there's a few things that I would change personally about Be'lakor to make him a bit more of a proper hybrid faction, but yeah, they did a really good job. The fifth to me, however, was actually quite surprising considering that it's Skarbrand, the Exiles of Khorne. Now, Skarbrand did get nerfed for Immortal Empires. He doesn't really have as much mobility on the campaign map as he did in the Realm of Chaos, yet I'd say that the faction has actually done quite well. I might even go as far as saying that even in the Realm of Chaos campaign, Skarbrand actually quickly became my favorite because Khorne felt the most fleshed out. The tech tree was good, the units were pretty good, there was good variety, despite the fact that yes, this is Khorne, so you're not supposed to expect too much, and obviously a faction with no magic. I wasn't expecting him ranking so high, in all honesty. But the surprising results were not the only reason why I wanted to talk about the statistics. In fact, I feel like these statistics could in fact shape the DLC cycle going forward, as 1 and 2 prove once again that human factions are going to be the most popular. I'm actually very surprised that the Empire is at number 1 still, mostly because yeah, they're in a bad place. I've said this earlier in the video, and you can all agree the Empire's kind of suffering a lot. They're getting attacked left, right, and center by, obviously, vampires, then you've got the Chaos with Festus, or the Beastmen, or hell, even the Norskins coming down, and then you've got some Greenskins, you've got some Skaven, you've got this, that, and the other. So it's actually quite surprising that Creative Assembly just don't decide, yeah, it's time to fix up the Empire. A lot of us are actually expecting a DLC in that form anyway, with Elsef versus Tamukan, because, well, it's an iconic matchup from a very good book, but you never know for the future. Regarding the missing content that the Empire has, there's a lot of potential for not just one DLC, but multiple DLCs. Even if they do a Champions of Chaos style DLC for the Empire, there's still so much more that they could bring into the fray, especially obviously with Old World coming up. But yeah, I feel like they should really push for an Empire DLC at some point next year. I know some people are going to say that Kislev and Cathay are going to need it more, and I completely agree. But go with something that's popular too. Plus, in theory, if they do actually have more teams, then we should see more DLC more often, right? Right? It's also the case that a lot of Game 1 races have been quite neglected, and the only ones that are actually feeling like are really in a good place are right now the Warriors of Chaos, obviously because of a recent rework, the Beastmen because of a rework DLC which was really, really good, and finally the Wood Elf one. So yeah, they need DLC of their quality for the Empire, for the Dwarves, and for the Vampire counts. The Greenskins are actually in a very good place. Plus, let's be honest, a Empire versus Nurgle DLC would be kind of useful, as it could fix up some problems with Nurgle too, you know, kill two birds with one stone. Now, Cathay being in the number 2 spot is very surprising, but it does prove two things. One, Creative Assembly and Games Workshop are able to create something which is very much requested over time, especially due to fan demand. We know that Cathay was basically there due to fan demand. And two, they were likely very able to push successfully into the east of our real world to generate some more sales. This is because we know this is the case with Three Kingdoms and obviously Total War, and then obviously Games Workshop publicly stating that in their financials. This is also why Cathay was confirmed to be a tabletop faction too. They want the money from the east, and, you know, all fairness, we'll buy those miniatures too. Or at least I would, because I kind of like the look of the models in-game. I'm hoping they'll look the same on the tabletop, because, yeah. Now, that's not the only reason why this is a good thing too. It proves that new stuff that wasn't even an army book, is very popular. And I'm saying much, much more popular than, say, well, Norska or even the Vampire Coast, as they've ranked up very, very high. So this could potentially show Creative Assembly and Games Workshop, well, Cathay worked very well. What about Ind, Koresh, Nippon, all these types of things that they probably already have plans for, but it will kind of solidify, yeah, this is going to be bigger reason for us to get more DLC out there, more race packs, because race packs themselves are very exciting to the community, or at least that's the way I see it myself. Okay, so having Archaon and Be'lakor in here proves something. I'm actually not at all surprised that we don't have any of the rankings regarding the Warriors of Chaos in Champions of Chaos, mostly because they are monogod factions and a lot of people on tabletop would specifically play Undivided, so it kind of makes sense to have two very drastically different factions. The Warhost of the Apocalypse and the Shadow Legion do play quite differently, but are still very much the same. It doesn't say that the Champions of Chaos didn't sell, it likely did, because I remember it being on the top sellers list for a while. It's more so that people wanted the complete experience. So while playing as any of these two factions, well, that means that you end up with, well, quite a lot, let's be honest here. You've got 5 different armies to play around with. Technically 6 with the Shadow Legion. But it does prove that a big rework can fix up a lot. The Warriors of Chaos were very popular on the tabletop, and I expected them to be very popular in Total War, but obviously they just weren't that playable. So seeing a good rework like this is fantastic, and it gives me hope in the future for a potential proper Dwarf rework, or a proper Vampire Count rework, hell, even a proper Empire rework, as the quality has gotten better and better. This statistic just proves quite a bit here. I do wish that Creative Assembly would post everything, like all the statistics, all the lords being ranked up and so on, but there's what, 86, so I understand that it can't be done unless they do a very heavy blog, and right now, well, they're all in Christmas break at this point. Khorne being so popular is very, very surprising to me, but there is a lot of stuff that Khorne is actually kind of missing, you know, like Wrathmongers, Skull Reapers, Skull Taker, you know, a big character there, Skull Bloodwrath, just a few. But it proves that the monogod factions can actually be quite popular. I was honestly thinking that the monogod factions were just going to rank quite low, and yeah, I'm happy to be wrong. I'm really happy to be wrong. I'm not so sure if this is also due to the fact that a bunch of the Warriors of Chaos have been moved over, but then again, Skarbrand already had a bunch of them, but it does make me quite excited in the future to see some more attention to the monogod factions that would need it. So Nash, Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Khorne actually do need a little bit more just to bring them back on par with everyone else, as a lot of other factions do outnumber them in terms of versatility more than anything else. Khorne being the least versatile of all the Warhammer factions, considering it's all melee, no range barring one specific unit, no magic whatsoever. Yeah, this is really, really interesting. The statistics like these do prove that the series does have a lot to go for, and there is potential, obviously, if Creative Assembly don't screw this up in Q2. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let's talk about this in the comments below, as I love talking about statistics. I love seeing statistics, especially for something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm sure that you guys would want to talk about this too. Again, I just wish that we had like a big statistic. I know that they did something like that for Warhammer 1 and very early into Warhammer 2. It's a shame that this wasn't replicated. But yeah, Let me know what you guys think.